Well, thank you very much for this opportunity to speak about the Ripple project. What a brilliant project going on in North Belfast. It's difficult to follow, but I'll try anyway. So I'm going to take you out of Belfast now and across Loch Ness to the border between County Tyrone and County Londonderry, where the Ballinderry River flows out of the Sperrin Mountains and into the western shore of the loch. And that's where our project's based, just outside of Cookstown. It covers the Ballinderry River system, which is 430 square kilometres, so that's the size of the area that we're dealing with. But because we're in a rural community, we only have around 33,000 people in the area. We were speaking to the project in Lochview last night, and they were telling us that they have more people than that in their 3 square miles, so it's a slightly different scale of a project. But the river's special in the sense that it's protected because of the otters that live in it and the globally endangered freshwater pearl mussel, and also because of rare plants that grow in and around the river. But there's something else very special about the Ballinderry, and that's the people that live and work around it, because they've taken it into their own to look after the river. And through the Ripple project, we've been able to provide them with a mechanism to do that, because within the community around the Ballinderry River system, there is a unbelievable amounts of knowledge and the will to want things to happen in order to make this river a healthy river for the community and for the environment. So the Ripple project is rivers involving people, places and leading by example, and it's an initiative that started with WWF and partnering with us, the Ballinderry fish hatchery in Cookstown. Sorry, I skipped ahead of myself there. Ballinderry Fish Hatchery is actually a community-owned business itself. It's owned by 7 angling clubs on the Ballinderry River, and it set up about 25 years ago, and really with the aim of the community looking after the river and breeding fish to put back and do habitat work to ensure that the health of the Ballinderry. And WWF partnered with us so that we could carry out this project on the ground and really demonstrate how community can get together and make a big difference on the ground, and in this case help achieve EU objectives, which I'll talk about in a minute. The project's funded by the Heritage Lottery Fund, and they've given us 3 years funding now to make sure this project can grow. The project, apart from the community involvement, also has an advisory network, and this is where government departments, local council and non-government departments have come together to form an advisory network to the project, and they've really waited in the wings until the community have come together with their plan of action for what they want to do on the river, and the advisory network are now assisting the community in delivering the action plan on the ground. Ripple really has 2 aims. The first one is to connect the community with the river again. And I say again because in the past people seem to have far more connection with the river. They used it for water, for food. They learned to swim in it, play around it, and some of the stories that we've heard are absolutely fantastic. But also we want this project to be used as a demonstration to show that if you give community the opportunity, they can come up with a really good plan of action that will ultimately help deliver some of the EU objectives that are being set for managing water across Europe, and that's the Water Framework Directive. And the directive itself even talks about public participation, but a lot of governments across Europe have taken that in very different ways. And here in Northern Ireland, the government have worked with the public, but not in the way that we're working with community on the ground, and we're showing that the community have the answers. No one knows the river better than the people who live and work next to it. We have been able to engage with the community with the help of the Rural Community Network. There's a lady at Rural Community Network called Anne-Marie McStocker, who is a genius when it comes to thinking of how you can get people involved in projects. It normally involves glitter and glue and coloured pens. And so we had a series of events where we invited the public to come along, the community to come along and tell us what they wanted to see happen on the Ballinderry River. And during that series of events, over 300 people turned up to tell us what their visions were for the Ballinderry. And their visions are wanting better access along the river, wanting themselves and others to have a better understanding of the river environment, wanting a cleaner river and wanting more wildlife. Now these things might seem very obvious, but the community know what they want, but when they ask for it, the message just seems to disappear into the ether. And really, the Ripple project has provided a focus for them to have a voice and to communicate with government and with local politicians and local council, so that they can say, this is what we want to see happen for our river, so that we as a community can enjoy it and the environment will also benefit. There is an action plan now as a result of those visions with 115 different actions in it, all of which the community have come up with themselves. 29 of those actions are kind of on the ground at this moment in time. They were prioritised as being most important and most achievable. And each one of those actions has been adopted by what we call a Ripple champion. A Ripple champion is someone in the community who adopts the action to make sure it gets all the attention it needs within the plan. And also, I'm employed to look after the project, but the people in the community who have these actions go out and talk to others about the action that they've adopted and encourage others to get involved. And so you can see, really, without volunteers, Ripple wouldn't exist at all. The youngest of our Ripple champions is 17, and the oldest is 73. So there's a vast array of experience within our Ripple champions and the wider community that support them. Eamon is one of those champions, and I want to let Eamon now tell you about his experience of Ripple and how he, as a volunteer, is now running a volunteer initiative.